Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, the people had a tradition of dedicating newborn babies to the sea gods. They believed that doing so would bring them good luck and fortune. So, when a new baby was born, the parents would place the baby in a basket and send it out to sea. But one day, something terrible happened. A storm started, and a wave washed over the village. The baby was carried away by the wave, and the villagers ran away in fear. Then the Siren Mermaid began to sing, and her song lured the men into the sea. They swam towards her, but she killed them all. After this, the villagers decided never to dedicate their children to the sea gods again. The Siren Mermaids are believed to be immortal, with incredibly long lifespans. They age very slowly and are capable of living for hundreds or even thousands of years. As for their strength, the Siren Mermaids are incredibly powerful creatures. They are much stronger than the average human, and they can swim at great speeds and dive to incredible depths. They also have the ability to manipulate the minds of humans, making them hear and see things that are not really there. They are also immune to most weapons, and they are incredibly difficult to kill. Few things that are known to harm or kill the Siren Mermaids. The first is the use of iron weapons. The Siren Mermaids are highly allergic to iron, and even the smallest amount can cause them pain or even death. Secondly, they cannot stand the scent of sage. Even a small amount of sage can render them weak and disoriented. Finally, they cannot stand the sound of bells. The ringing of bells is said to drive the Siren Mermaids away, and even cause them great pain. One day a fisherman tried to pass through the barrier. The barrier is only the Siren Mermaid that can pass through it. This barrier is said to be impenetrable, even by the most powerful of spells. His name is Ivar, and he was a greedy man who only cared about wealth and power. He had heard tales of the Siren Sea and the treasures that were said to be hidden there, and he was determined to find them for himself. He ignored the warnings of the villagers, who told him that no one who had tried to enter the Siren Sea had ever returned. Ivar built a ship and gathered a crew of men to help him on his quest. They set sail for the Siren Sea, and they reached the barrier. Ivar ordered his men to lower the anchor and try to break through the barrier, but they were unable to do so. As they tried, they heard a terrible roar, and a giant sea serpent rose from the waters. The serpent struck the ship with its tail, and the ship began to sink. The crew tried to swim to safety, but the sea serpent grabbed them in its coils and dragged them down to the bottom of the sea. Ivar was the only one who managed to escape. He swam to the shore and collapsed on the beach, exhausted and terrified. When the villagers found him, he was delirious and mumbling about sea serpents and treasures. They took him to the village healer, who cared for him until he recovered. But Ivar was a changed man. He was no longer interested in riches and power. He spent the rest of his days telling stories of the Siren Sea and warning others not to try to enter it. He died a peaceful death, knowing that he had learned the true meaning of wealth and happiness. And so the legend of the Siren Sea, there were two Siren Mermaid sisters, one named Andromeda and the other named Cassiopeia. Andromeda was the kind sister who would often sing to sailors to calm their fears and guide them home safely. Cassiopeia, on the other hand, was the wicked sister. She would lure sailors to their deaths with her beautiful voice and would steal their souls. One day, a young man named Jason was sailing home with his wife, Medea. Medea doesn't know about the danger of the Siren Mermaids. She and Jason are simply enjoying each other's company and celebrating their successful fishing trip. So as Medea and Jason are sailing home, she hears a beautiful song that seems to be coming from the water. She doesn't recognize the danger, and she calls out to her husband Jason to listen to the lovely music. But Jason doesn't respond, and Medea realizes that something is wrong. She peers over the edge of the boat and sees her husband floating in the water, his eyes blank and lifeless. Cassiopeia has used her power to take Jason's soul, leaving his body behind. Medea is unable to fight the Siren Mermaids. She's not a warrior, and she doesn't have the power to take on Cassiopeia. So instead, she mourns for her husband and buries him at sea. Then she goes home and tries to rebuild her life. but she is forever changed by the loss of her husband. The village is holding a celebration, and there is a river close by, so the party was going well, and there was plenty of food and drink for everyone. A man got drunk and was enjoying himself, and he was having a good time with his friends and family. As the night wore on, he began to drink more and more until he was quite intoxicated. It was then that he got the idea to go for a swim, despite the warnings about the Siren Mermaids that lived in the waters nearby. The man stumbled down to the riverbank where he began to undress and prepare to go for a swim. But as he did so, he heard a beautiful voice singing from the water. The song was so alluring that he couldn't help but be drawn towards it. The man stepped into the water and the song grew louder and more enchanting. As he swam towards the sound, he saw a beautiful woman with a fish's tail instead of legs. The man thought he must be dreaming, but he kept swimming towards the mermaid. And that's when the mermaid's true nature was revealed. The mermaid's voice turned harsh and cruel, and the man realized too late that he had been lured into a trap. The mermaid pulled the man under the water, and he began to struggle. But it was no use. The mermaid was far too strong. The man could feel his life slipping away as he sank deeper and deeper into the water. Meanwhile, back at the party, the man's family and friends had begun to notice that he had been gone for a long time. They began to search for him, growing more and more worried as time went on. Finally, as the sun rose the next morning, they saw something floating in the water. At first, they thought it was just a piece of debris, but as they got closer, they realized it was the man's body. They rushed to the water's edge and pulled the man from the river, but it was too late. He was already dead. The man's family and friends were devastated by his death, and they held a funeral to mourn him. But even after the funeral, they could not forget the strange song they had heard from the water. And they wondered if the Siren Mermaids were real, and if there would be more deaths to come.